by the way, we're singing it today. We're not speaking it. We're singing it.
That will help.
Singing more.
Good stuff.
Oh, so we're doing like Peyton Manning. The jingle.
Good morning. Welcome to United States Sports Academy and our weekly sports talk program. First of all, we'd like to thank Coach Mike Godfrey for joining us last week. He did a wonderful job, and as you can tell, he's a great human being who's doing a lot of good things for a lot of young kids around the country. So thanks, Coach Godfrey. We really appreciate it. Today we're going to kind of do a review of the year in sports for 2016, and with me is Dr. Brett Simmermacher, our Chair of Sports Coaching, and Miss Sandy Geringer, our Director of Sports Studies. I'm Steve Butler. I'll be your host today, and behind the camera is our wonderful producer, Sarah Weber, one of our graduate teaching assistants. What we thought we'd do today is kind of go through a chronological order of what we see as the major events of 2016, and at the end, each of the three of us, and probably Sarah will probably chime in too, we'll pick the one that we think was the most significant event of 2016, and then at the very end we'll talk a little bit about some of the sports stars that we lost this year. And it's always a sad thing that you see every year around this time. They do it, like on Access Hollywood, they'll do the movie stars that have passed during the year. On ESPN, they'll do the sports stars that have passed. And we lost two giants this year, and a lot of other really good people. We'll start way back in January when Alabama defeated Clemson to win the national championship. A great game. Alabama had, in the fourth quarter, had a 100-yard kickoff return and recovered an onside kick to help them win the game. In fact, Dr. Simmermacher is the chairman of our
Game of the Year.
NCAA College Football Game of the Year committee, and that was the winner last year.
That was the winner.
From the
Unanimous winner.
Unanimous winner. We'll see how it goes this year. There is a chance they could meet
Again
for the championship.
They got to go through the Buckeyes.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say.
If Alabama beats Washington, that's a big if, because Washington's a good club too.
Yeah.
And Chris Peterson has shown in the past what he can do with some extra time to prepare for really big games. When he was at Boise State, we'll see what he comes up with the Washington. But if Alabama beats Washington, the team they'll play will be the teams they played in the last 2 years in the playoffs. So Ohio State beat them 2 years ago in the semifinals, and Clemson lost to them last year in the championship game. Of course, everybody down here thinks Alabama is the first, second, third, and fourth best team in the country, and we know that's not true. I was at the SEC championship game, and they looked pretty good, but one of the things that would scare me if I was an Alabama fan is that the Florida quarterback, who was horrible, threw for almost 300 yards, and Browning, the Washington quarterback, is really good. So we'll see how that goes. The next big event we saw was Villanova beating University of North Carolina in the championship game.
What a huge upset that was. I think going into the game, everybody thought North Carolina. It kind of reminded me of the North Carolina State, Houston. Was it Houston?
Mm-hmm. NC State, Houston.
Yeah, the Phi Slamma Jamma. And how nobody gave North Carolina State a chance. I can tell a funny story about that if you want me to.
Sure.
I was going to the University of South Alabama at the time, and we had a little pool together.
This was 83.
Yeah. We had a pool together. You know how you put the pool together and you draw names out. And I happened to have North Carolina State. My brother had University of Houston. Before the game started, I said, hey, whoever wins, we should split this. And of course, he said, no, we're not splitting it. Because, of course, he thought Houston was going to just mop.
Yeah, because
NC
they played Louisville in the semifinals,
That's right.
which was a really good team, and destroyed them. They had like 43 dunks. I don't know what the magic number was, but it was a lot of dunks.
And, of course, Houston ends up getting beaten. Of course, he came to me and said, we're splitting that, right? And no. But that's what that game reminded me of, because nobody gave Villanova a chance.
And that's the thing, in preparation for this, I watched the last minute 30 seconds, and it was back and forth, and within 4.2 seconds or something, that's when they got the ball and took it down and shot the three, and it was like just slow motion, smooth. and I remember it gave me goosebumps.
Where the kid from North Carolina made one of the greatest shots in tournament history.
Mm.
right
Oh,
before
That was like
Yeah.
a shot. I mean, he just threw it up there, and it was.
Was it a double clutch too? Kind
Yeah,
of
it was
thing?
double
Yeah.
clutch, and he waited. He kind of brought it back. The guy
Yeah,
flew by.
yeah.
And he shot it. Yeah,
Well, and Villanova's getting no respect this year.
right.
I mean, they're playing very well again this year, and everybody's got everybody else above them. So
They haven't lost since the
national
Big East
championship.
tournament last year.
Yeah.
They ran, obviously they went through the tournament undefeated because you have to, and then I think they're 11-0 to start this season. The next thing we have on our list is something that a lot of people here probably don't know a lot about, but Leicester City. Leicester City won the Premier League last year in soccer, and that's a big deal because over here you hear about Chelsea, you hear about Manchester United, you hear about Liverpool, and you hear about all the famous teams. But Leicester City 2 years ago had to win their last game of the season to finish fourth from the bottom by 1 point. And in England, if you finish at the bottom three, you get relegated down to the lower division. It'd be kind of like moving the Cleveland Browns down to the World Football League or something this year.
For college football.
Or the MAC.
Oh,
Ouch.
that's a double burn.
Not even a Power Five.
Double burn.
So, but anyway, they just barely stayed in the Premier League 2
Yeah.
years ago, and of course the thing they talked about all during the season, gambling on sports is huge in England, and like Leicester City began last year before the season started at 5,000 to 1, and
This unlucky chap probably had.
yeah, if you had $100 on them, you're doing really well these days. The next one, which I know these guys both like because they're both from Ohio, was the Cavaliers beating Golden State Warriors in Game 7 of the NBA championships, and you know, people were starting to make the argument if Golden State wins that as the greatest team ever, and
Shut down.
yeah,
And they were right on the doorstep.
yeah.
You know, they were up 3-1 in Sacramento.
They were up 3-1 and had games 5 and 7 in Oakland and game 6 in Cleveland.
Yeah.
So up 3-1, and but you know,
I would like to thank Draymond Green for bringing a little extra drama to that whole series
by
and
getting suspended.
lighting the fire under the Cavs, because I think that's what did it. That and Mrs. Curry, but it's not there.
LeBron James, having LeBron James isn't a bad thing.
Well, no,
No.
of course.
But he's been to the finals now five years in a row. The next one, and I know this is one of Sarah's favorites because she was there. Coastal Carolina wins the College World Series in baseball, and they were kind of a Cinderella story as well. Nobody expected them to win.
They've always, over probably the last, I'd say, 12 to 15 years, they've been a really, really good program year in and year out with almost 50 wins every year, or well over 40 anyway. And they finally broke through, and you know, it's teams like Coastal Carolina and Fresno State a few years back that keep those smaller
Programs on the map.
yeah, smaller programs. You know, everybody thought it was going to be a Power 5 school or UCLA or whoever, but
There's an interesting dynamic that happens in those kind of tournaments too. Is that the people who are there for their school, Florida State, you know, the big baseball power schools. Once they lose, they tend to start rooting for the underdog.
sure,
And you see it kind of a groundswell going for. So Coastal Carolina, it ended up being a great championship game, and that one kid they brought in to pitch was lights out, and they won it all. Every 4 years, when you talk about the year in sports, you have to include the Summer Olympics. You know, there's a lot of sports in the Summer Olympics that Americans care about every 4 years. It's, you know, soccer, we care about it every 4 years with the World Cup, and then we kind of care about it in the Olympics. Our men didn't even qualify for the Olympics this year, and our women were overwhelming favorites and didn't even make it. They lost the first game of the knockout round, so they didn't even play for a medal, which was a huge upset in itself. But to me, and I think you guys have your thoughts on this as well. To me, the four things that stand out from this Olympics were Usain Bolt, Michael Phelps, Katie Ledecky, and Simone Biles. And I think with Bolden Phelps especially, I don't think there's any argument about who the greatest sprinter of all time is.
No.
And I don't think there's any doubt about who the greatest swimmer of all time is. And Katie Ledecky is on the verge of being the greatest women's distance swimmer ever. In fact, she would have qualified for the distance event. I think the men do 10,000 meters. She would have qualified for the finals. She wouldn't have won it, but she would have qualified for the finals of the men's 10,000 meters with a 10,000 meter race. She swam earlier in the year, so she's just a special talent. Simone Biles with gymnastics. You know, this was her first Olympics, so we'll wait and see what she does down the road. But you know, and some people will say that, of course, Usain Bolt's the greatest sprinter of all time because he holds all the world's records. I don't think that's always the case. You know, we talked about this earlier. I think there's anybody who knows anything about distance running will tell you that the greatest distance runner of all time was Haile Gebrselassie, and he doesn't hold any world records anymore. They've all been broken, but he's still the greatest distance runner of all times, in my opinion, a lot of other folks' opinion. But I don't think there's any doubt about who the greatest sprinter of all time is, because sometimes he wins laughing at his competition. You know, and you just look at the times. He ran 9.58 in not this year, but his world record in the 100 is 9:58 and 19:18 at 200. The 200 meters is the one that I remember during the Olympics. Tom Hammond and Otto Bolden were talking, and he had just won the 100 meters, and Tom Hammond was trying to pump up the suspense and said something about the 200 meters, and Otto Bolden goes, "Come on, Tom. We know who's going to win the 200 meters," because he can literally sit in the blocks for 200 meters and not false start and come smoking out of the box. So that was you guys have any other thoughts about the Olympics?
No, those are by far, yeah.
Well, the only other thing that came out of the Olympics we really don't want to talk about. With Lochte.
Ryan Lochte.
You know, his drama. You know, that wasn't anything that but it did put kind of a black eye on things for the United States.
Yeah.
Worked its way out of the news cycle, though,
Yeah, it
after
did.
a couple of months.
I would like to have a shout out to my niece Maya, who will be giving Ledecky some pressure because she just, as a freshman, beat out the high school record. So
Cool.
she's on her way to the distance
Wow.
Swimming. So look for Maya.
She from Ohio?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good for her.
that hotbed of swimming.
Yeah. I bet.
And then we had Wimbledon. Serena Williams won in Wimbledon, tying Steffi Graf with 22 majors.
Yes, and that is
This is our
very
tennis expert.
that is very commendable. However, I would like to mention that they both started at the age of 17 by winning their first Grand Slam. However, Steffi was 29 and Serena was 34. So Steffi won them in a shorter amount of time than Serena did.
I got in an argument with somebody about this a couple months ago. I think Steffi Graf in her prime and Serena Williams in her prime. I think Steffi wins.
She just seems to have a little more mental control. I think that would be able to maybe set her apart a little bit. But I will say Serena was the oldest player to win Grand Slam, so that's very commendable as well.
She's still got 2 to catch Margaret Court, though. She's tied with Steffi for second place.
Mm-hmm.
Next, in October, the Cubs won the World Series for the first time since 1908.
1908. And all of us Ohioans are, I don't know, still licking our wounds over that one.
It's the curse of the 3-1 lead. That's what it is.
That's what it is.
It came back to bite us for the poor Indians.
But the Indians had a great season.
They did.
Terry Francona was manager of the year.
That's great.
Their pitcher finished second in the
Cy
Young voting, and they got a young shortstop who is awesome.
Going to be great.
Yeah.
Will be
Up and comer.
will be there. You know, when you have a shortstop with that much speed batting third in your lineup, you know you've got a keeper. And then one another sport that's pretty popular down in this part of the country is NASCAR, and Jimmy Johnson won his 7th championship, which ties in with Dale Earnhardt and Richard Petty. There are actually only 3 guys with more than 4. Jeff Gordon has 4, but Jimmy wins his 7th championship.
Very exciting.
And, I think in some ways Jimmy's is more impressive because he's done it under 3 different systems, where back in the days when Richard Petty, Richard Petty won 200 races, and that's one of those records that's you can forget about anybody ever becoming close to that. David Pearson second with 104, but what people don't realize is back in the days when Richard was driving, they used to have midweek races, and there was one season where they had 47 races in one season. Now they've been at 36 now for at least 10 years, probably more like 15 years, and just the common sense would tell you that if you have 47 races in a year, you're going to win more races than if you have 36.
Sure.
And another thing that even Richard Petty talked about this in the pre-race show for the last race about Jimmy Johnson tying his record. Richard, there was like David Pearson, Bobby Allison, Donnie Allison, Cale Yarborough, and then a young Darrell Waltrip, and then a young Dale Earnhardt after that. But he basically, in his prime, had 5 or 6 guys he had to beat. Nowadays, Jimmy Johnson has 25 guys.
Right.
He needs 25 guys and 1 lady he needs to beat. So I'll get my plug in there for Danny Pat.
Yes, of course.
But quite an achievement, and he's a young guy. He's in great shape. He runs marathons, so we I think next year they'll be talking about number 8. And then finally, the last thing on our list is something that's not really happened yet, but Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, and Washington in the playoffs. So we'll see how that works. The other thing we want to talk about today is some of the sports stars that we lost in 2016. We'll go through these rather quickly. Rashaan Salam, Heisman Trophy winner at the University of Colorado. These are kind of in reverse chronological.
He was
order.
young.
Yeah, he was very young.
42, I think.
Great football player in college who never seemed to catch on in the pros. Dennis Byrd was quite a story. He was an offensive lineman for the New York Jets, and he had a helmet-to-helmet collision with a teammate, and actually had to get carried off the field. Was paralyzed from the neck down, and
Told him he'd never walk again.
never walk again. One of the great stories was when he led the Jets out of the tunnel walking, and he got another car accident not too long ago, and was tragically killed. Jose Fernandez, I know Brett can relate to this, a young, awesome pitcher for the Miami Marlins, who was tragically killed in a boat accident. John Saunders, the great voice on ESPN, did sports
NABC.
reporters on Sunday mornings, did hockey games. He actually played hockey at in the MAC. I can't remember what school it was.
Central
Central
West,
Michigan?
I think it was Western Michigan.
Yes, it was Western
Western
Michigan.
Michigan.
Yeah, who's made a name for himself in football this year. Dennis Green, the longtime NFL coach of the Minnesota, most notably for the Minnesota Vikings and the Arizona Cardinals. He's one that made that great speech.
He went on a rant.
Yeah.
That was classic.
Yeah, well, we thought they were. That was after a Monday night game.
Yeah.
Nate Thurman, for those of you who are younger than me, Nate Thurman was a great basketball player in the 60s. He was one of those big centers who duked it out with Russell and Chamberlain, and then a young Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in his career. And if you watch a Golden State Warriors game this year, you'll notice they have the patch on their jersey with number 42. That was Nate Thurman's number. He's in the Basketball Hall of Fame, one of the 50 greatest players of all time, most notably with the Warriors. That's why his number has been retired. Buddy Ryan, you tell us about what makes Buddy Ryan special.
Buddy Ryan, he was the first coordinator in the NFL to ever be carried off the field when he was the defensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, when they won that Super Bowl with that awesome defense, him and Mike Ditka both got the famous head coach's ride. So he never really did much as a head coach.
No, he didn't.
But he was a great defensive coordinator, and some people will still argue that was the best defense ever in the NFL. Of course, we lost Pat Summitt this year. When she retired, she was the only basketball coach that the University of Tennessee women had ever had, and she was the inspiration for Gino Auriemma. People talk about Gino Auriemma and UConn being bad for basketball, which I think is nonsense. Before Gino and UConn, it was Pat and Tennessee. They were the standard. Before that, it was Louisiana Tech with Barmore, Leon Barmore.
Yeah.
And there's always been great teams in women's basketball, and I think what Gino's done at UConn is good for women's basketball. That's something we didn't even mention on the front page was of the great achievements of them winning their.
We didn't talk about the NCAA national championship.
Yeah, 11th straight.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, his 11th title.
And their
And
fourth.
their fourth straight. Brianna Stewart became the only four-time winner,
champion.
four-time national champion, four-time most outstanding player from the tournament, and they still haven't lost.
Yeah, didn't they lose last week? Somebody beat them last
Oh,
week.
really? I was in England, so I missed it.
Yeah, who was it?
Um,
I'll think of it. It was a good team though.
They beat they beat Notre Dame.
yeah, they beat Notre Dame.
1 versus 2. Was it South
Somebody-
Carolina?
Yeah, it might have been South Carolina. Yeah.
And then Gordie Howe, who some old timers argue is the greatest hockey player of all time. I think we know that Wayne Gretzky was the greatest, but being the second greatest in something isn't all that bad. Pearl Washington, who was a great college basketball player at Syracuse. Joe Garagiola, who was the voice of Major League Baseball when I was young. Back in the day when you only got one baseball game a year. One baseball game a week. It was Joe Garagiola and Tony Kubek on Saturday afternoons.
Yeah.
And then Bud Collins, a famous tennis broadcaster, and Bill Johnson, who was the first American man ever to win a Olympic gold medal in alpine skiing. And of course, I mentioned at the beginning of the show, the two giants that we lost this year were Muhammad Ali and Arnold Palmer. We actually did a whole show about Arnold Palmer right after he passed, and when you have the greatest of all time and the king, you don't need to say much more. Okay, we lost those folks in 2016, and so we ended on a more happy note. Brad, what do you think was the greatest sporting accomplishment of 2016?
For me, it had to be Cleveland over Golden State, and just the city of Cleveland finally getting a championship in that city.
It had been the Browns won in '64.
64.
They had a pretty good running back in them days.
Yeah, Jim Brown or some guy like that.
Yeah.
But that was probably the biggest for me, and close behind that was Coastal Carolina winning the college baseball World Series.
For sure. Well, this was definitely the year of Believe Land.
Mm-hmm.
And it started with Stipe Miocic, who won the heavyweight UFC in May. So that kind of, then the domino effect. Then the Cavs won, the Indians made it to the finals. And the Browns are even getting a parade this year, the 0-16 parade. So, celebrate the Browns, even though,
They're going to win a game.
they have to, hopefully.
Well, the last 3 games were against the way they've set the schedule up now. The last 3 games for everybody are the other 3 teams in their division.
They're going to beat
They
somebody.
got Cincinnati, Baltimore, and Pittsburgh.
Hopefully Pittsburgh.
That's the last game of the season.
No.
But I think the piece de resistance for 2016, even though it'll happen in 2017, is Ohio State over Bama.
Haha.
What can you say about that? Sarah, what's yours?
Well, first, I just want to add some of the NCAA national champions real quick. On women's hoops in Division I, it was UConn. Men's and women's soccer just completed a few weeks ago. Stanford repeated as men's Division I champion, and USC won in women's.
Pac-12.
Yeah.
Remember the days when Pac-12 won everything?
Oklahoma won the softball title
That's right.
about a week or 2 before Coastal Carolina won. That was very exciting.
Yeah, except they shouldn't have won because they were playing Auburn.
I think it was exciting to see Coastal Carolina win the College World Series, and I also think it was exciting to see the Cubs win the Baseball World Series.
Like these guys, I was actually rooting for the Indians in the World Series, but the Cubs is a great story. For me, I've since I was a little kid, I've always been an Olympic fan, and for me, the premier event in every Olympics is the 100 meters, and to see Usain Bolt, what he did, 3 Olympics in a row, he's won the 100, the 200, and the 4x100 relay. So he's 9 for 9. What Michael Phelps has done has been incredible. But if I had to rank them as the greatest Olympians of all time, I think I'd have to put Usain Bolt first because he didn't have the opportunity. I mean, if they had a running backwards race, like they do in swimming,
Or a karaoke race, or whatever kind of race, he's probably going to win it.
You know who would have been awesome in a running backward race? Deion Sanders.
Yeah.
Anyway, I like the Olympics, and for me it was Usain Bolt and what he did. We're not going to have a show next week because a lot of folks at the Sports Academy will be on Christmas vacation. But what we're going to do is 2 weeks from today, on the 28th of December, we're gonna have a show that will be taped next week on remote at the battleship at the USS Alabama Battleship Park here in Alabama, and we'll be talking to players and coaches and hope maybe even athletic director from the two teams in the
And,
Dollar General Bowl.
and the executive director of the Dollar General Bowl game.
Okay, yeah, and so we'll be on remote next week, and we'll play it for you guys at 11:30 a.m. Central Time on the 28th. So you're used to the regular time slot. We'd like to thank Coach Joe Godfrey at the Dollar General Bowl for arranging that all for us. Sarah's also going to have an interview with Coach Steve Spurrier that she's already got scheduled, and we'll have that up for you as well. So we'll hope everybody. We won't see you next week. But we hope everybody has a great Christmas, and you'll be able to watch a tape show from a remote at the Battleship Park for the Dollar. I almost said GoDaddy for the Dollar General Bowl with Ohio University
And Troy.
and Troy University, who represent the Sun Belt and the MAC respectively in the Dollar General Bowl.
Yeah.
This is first year of the Dollar General Bowl. Hopefully, they're sponsored
Many
for
to come.
many years to come. So everybody have a wonderful holiday, and we will see you on the 28th at 11:30 a.m. Central Time from the campus of the United States Sports Academy. Where this is us saying so long and have a great week in sports.